reparations. Yes, it was war. It was blood. Yes, the guns. And those ships, far from Sumter. Yes, the fighting. Yes, the centuries. Those ships. To the shores Michael rode, by the lakes and the land. Yes, the people. Yes, Cayuga, the home. It was war. Western Union, yes, the wealth. What is joined, though disjointed? Any person, does it matter? Any study, who's to care? Reconstitution, try again. Those acres, those mules. Do you have reservations? Did those borders cross me? The slope is steep, perseverance. And the heroes, yes, the struggle. Yes, the climbing. Yes, the lifting. Once again, the enriching. And the telling, or the listening, and the subjects are the topics. Yes, the striving, and the making, and the taking, took, and being, and the changing. Yes, the change. We know the beauty in the distance, and we keep that vision forward. While the battles, yes, the war. While the struggle, yes, the being, the becoming. Every person, every study. Be the change. Never has, never will, many thousands. Soon the day of the 50. Every step, every way, every drop, owed, not given. Yes, the strong. Yes, the day. Yes, the strong. My name is A.T. Miller. I'm Associate Vice Provost of Academic Diversity here at Cornell. And we are so happy to see all of you, the strong, who are here this morning. It is 50 years since the beginning of the COSEP program. And on my little notes, it says introduce VIPs. And when I look at this room, it's like, okay, so everyone's here. And it's pretty much everyone here is a spectacular VIP. It's so many accomplishments, so many people who have been so generous to each other. We have a large number of people who have served as staff members of COSEP. So if you were ever a affiliate staff member, if you could stand to be acknowledged. And I'd also ask the current staff of what is now the Intercultural Center at 626, the Center for Intercultural Dialogue, as well as the Office of Academic Diversity Initiatives, if those folks could stand. So, as many of you know, the Committee on Special Educational Projects, or COSEP, was established by Cornell University in 1964 with two primary goals: to increase the enrollment of African American students at Cornell and to provide support services which would facilitate both the adjustment to and graduation from Cornell. And later, COSEP was expanded to include Latino, Hispanic American, Native American, and Asian American students, as well as those who would be first in their families to receive a bachelor's degree and those from lower income families. Over the past 5 decades of service to students and its mission, COSEP has been highly successful, as you all can attest. Besides changing the composition of the university's student body, COSEP and its programs have helped to sensitize the university community to the challenges, needs, and accomplishments of students from these groups at Cornell, and has made Cornell all the more excellent. In 1976, COSEP became part of the Office of Minority Educational Affairs, OMEA, and for the next 33 years, COSEP remained a committee of the advisors, counselors, administrators who support the special educational needs of the students. Part of that network includes all of the people who are college associates And I don't know how many times we're going to have people stand up, but there's a whole set of folks here who are or have served as college associates across Cornell. Could we recognize you as well? So in June of 2011, COSEP gave birth to twins. And those twins are the Center for Intercultural Dialogue at 626 and the Office of Academic Diversity Initiatives. And from their titles, you might guess that the WADI, as we pronounce the acronym, which if you know Arabic or Swahili means a protected path through the desert. Not that Cornell's a desert, of course. It's a little wet today, right? But as a unit that addresses diversity issues and support in academic areas across the university and home to the student opportunity programs with the Posse Foundation, the Gates Millennium Scholars, and the New York State Opportunity Programs. And then the diversity issues involving social climate, student activities, residence life are in the new Student Development and Diversity Initiative offices that are part of the center at 626. One of the great leaders at the time, in the early days of COSEP, was Dr. Carson Carr Jr. And we were hoping that he was a person who could celebrate with us. Unfortunately, many of you know of his passing this past October 3rd. He retired as Vice President for Academic Affairs and Director of Opportunity Programs at the University at Albany, where he was for many years. And throughout his career, Dr. Carr believed in students and the power of opportunity programs. I know many of you here were personally recruited by him and supported by him. And if you would join me in a moment of silence in his memory. Thank you so much. And now, next in our program, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Dr. Renee Alexander.
Thank you, A.T. And what a wonderful turnout. I'm really just, I'm not speechless, but I certainly and really happy to see so many people assembled here to commemorate this noteworthy occasion. And I have to say, we really tried our best to hold on to the good weather. It was really beautiful here earlier in the week, but you know the weather changes quickly in Ithaca, so let's hope the rain holds off for the tailgating. I want to thank everyone who has traveled from afar to spend a few minutes with us today. Although the acronym COSEP, Committee on Special Education Programs, has disappeared from the daily lingo, it is indelibly embedded in the collective consciousness of the university. So as A.T. asked some folks affiliated to stand regarding COSEP, can I ask COSEP students, COSEPers, to stand up and be acknowledged here today? All right. That's what I'm talking about. And special shout out to the class of 74. I want to mention two names right now that I'll loop back later in my remarks and discuss. And one of them, A.T. already introduced, was the late Dr. Carson Carr. And the other one is the late Dr. Dale Corson, the 8th president of Cornell University. We COSEPers are mostly the sons and daughters of World War II veterans. First in our families to attend college, from working class backgrounds and overwhelmingly from urban settings. We grew up hearing about Brown v. Board of Education, and we vaguely remember Emmett Till and Rosa Parks, but certainly more vividly remember watching James Meredith shatter the racial caste system at Ole Miss, listening to George Wallace shout, "Segregation now, segregation forever," as 2 black students enrolled in classes at the University of Alabama. Malcolm X, March on Washington, race riots, Medgar Evers, JFK, RFK, MLK, Vietnam, and civil rights legislation, which prompted James Perkins, president of Cornell, and other educational leaders to participate in a social experiment called admitting students of African descent to elite institutions. We were from families who had hopes and dreams and aspirations for us, but very little money. And we had no social capital networks or legacy status to leverage. They did their best to get us here. Growing up, most of us knew we were going to college, somewhere, but not where, and certainly not here. We began arriving in small numbers. The class of 1966, the entering class of 1966 had 49 students of African descent. And those numbers would grow incrementally until April 1969, when a bodacious group of black students entered and occupied Bullitt Strait Hall for 36 hours. It was a game changer. A man named Carson Carr, who A.T. referenced just a few minutes ago, had been hired to recruit African American students. And he was so good at his job that Dr. Carr, in the name of COSEP, almost single-handedly assembled, and some of those folks that you just saw stand up until the entering class of 2017, the largest class of African ancestry in the history of the university. Tip our hat to Dr. Dale Corson. I'm going to tip our hat to Dr. Dale Corson, too. Dr. Corson was president when many of us arrived. He served from 1969 to 1977. And if you go back and take a look at that sheepskin, he probably signed your diploma. He was provost during the Bullitt Strait Hall occupation, and he assumed the presidency after Perkins resigned. These were turbulent times at the university and in the nation, to say the least. Corson's job during the takeover was to keep law enforcement away from campus. According to him, they were calling from around the state to come and provide reinforcement. And his job was to keep them away, keep them from spilling blood. He got to know Tom Jones and Reuben Monday and Zach Carter and Homer Skip Meade. If I may fast forward to 2009 and the Cornell Black Alumni Association dinner, the Saturday night dinner, Skip Meade was the keynote speaker, and Dr. Corson was his invited guest. Alumni of color lined up all evening to shake his hand, pose for a picture, and tell him how a Cornell education had worked in their lives. A year later, Dr. Corson was sitting for an interview about the takeover and James Turner is going to be featured in it as well. It's a documentary that Frank Dawson is taping, and it's just about ready. In a 3-hour session, Dr. Corson relayed his experiences around the Bullitt Strait Hall takeover. And as the interview was winding down, the interviewee asked him, "What was your most memorable moment in the 40 years that you've been at Cornell University? What was your most memorable moment here?" And he wasted no time in saying the Black Alumni Dinner of 2009, the banquet of 2009. 18 months later, he summoned me to his home. He was beginning to wind down. He had a heart ailment, and he knew that he wouldn't be lasting very much longer, so he summoned me to his apartment. And during our 2-hour conversation, I asked him about his most memorable experience comment. And he explained, "It was clear to me that through all the turmoil, tension, and chaos, it was more than worth all the upheaval that we've been through to get where we are today." He said there was a spirit moving in that room that I had never experienced before. And I took a look at the audience and I said, "We've come full circle," and I've been honored to be a part of it. Reuben Monday, Tom Jones have come full circle too. As you might know, Reuben Monday and his wife Cheryl Castleberry Monday have endowed a faculty speaker series here at Africana. And Tom Jones is the benefactor of the Perkins Prize, which is awarded every year to people, organizations who do the most to bring groups together on this campus. So thank you, Carson Carr, Dale Corson, James Perkins, James Turner, Gloria Joseph, Carol Mosley, Del Hunter, and I'm sure I'm leaving some names out. Thank you for Cornell making a difference in our lives. Last month over dinner, one of my friends said to me, Renee, I think that you are the Gloria Joseph of 2014 at Cornell. And I can't think of a better honor or a better segue into introducing him. I'm going to read very quickly from a piece from Dr. Irving Presley McPhail, class of 1970, one of the principal architects of the Willett Straight Hall takeover. And when he wrote this in 2003, he was the chancellor of the Community College of Baltimore County. Still very active in higher ed. In fact, he works with NACME. I believe he works with the engineering college to pipeline underrepresented minorities into STEM programs in higher ed, and Cornell is one of his clients. So this is what Dr. McPhail wrote. I was one of 49 African-American students who arrived at Cornell as a freshman in 1966. I was admitted to the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences as a biological sciences major with financial support from the COSET program. COSEP, the Committee on Special Education Projects, was the outgrowth of then James Perkins' desire that Cornell extend offers of admission to qualified students who had been disadvantaged by their cultural, economic, and educational backgrounds. It's a long paper. He wrote it in 2003, but I'm going to fast forward to what he refers to Dr. Joseph as a mentor, a facilitator of inquiry, architect of connection, manager of collaboration and integration. And he dedicates a poem to her. I Have Known Rivers, which is the title of his paper. That is a poem by Langston Hughes. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in my human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient, dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. Dr. Gloria Joseph is a black feminist educator and activist of West Indian parents and views the world from a global perspective with an Afrocentric socialist base. She has been in the field of academia for over 30 years and is professor emeritus at Hampshire College in Amherst, Mass. She received a Bachelor of Science in Education at New York University, completed dual masters at the City College of New York, Master of Science in Psychological Services and Guidance Counseling, received her PhD at Cornell in Sociology and Educational Psychology. Additionally, she has studied agriculture science at the University of the Virgin Islands. Her teaching spans several continents, having served as a school psychologist and reading specialist in U.S. schools. Dr. Joseph traveled to South Africa in 1993 and produced a full-length video on the conditions of blacks under apartheid. She is founder of CISA, S-I-S-A, Sisterhood in Support of Sisters in South Africa, an organization that funded and befriended women's self-help organizations in South Africa. She has also held teaching positions at 4 major universities: Cornell, University of Massachusetts, Amherst, Mass., and Hampshire College, all located in Amherst, Massachusetts. Dr. Gloria Joseph, as Dean of Students at Cornell University, was the first director of COSET, where she recruited, advised, and counseled minority students, African American, Puerto Rican, and Native Americans. At the conclusion of her reign as COSET director, how appropriate a phrase, she began one of the first group of faculty members of the newly established Africana Studies and Research Center, chaired by none other than our own Dr. James Turner. As an avid beekeeper and a member of the International Beekeeper Association, it's so good to find out what people do in their spare time. This afforded her to travel to mainland China for a tour for beekeepers. Dr. Joseph is a resident of St. Croix, and we are very envious of that, and an elder in the community. She devotes her time to riding, golfing, gardening, and traveling. And she asked me to tell you that on her way up to Ithaca, she was invited to visit the Bill de Blasio family at Gracie Mansion. And she made a pit stop on her way to Ithaca to be greeted by the First Lady of the City of New York. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Gloria Joseph.
Moment while I put on my reading glasses. And of course, I'm very glad to be here. Why shouldn't I be? I should be, and I am. Okay, I want to initially thank Priest Nelson Barrows was supposed to be here, but unfortunately she had an accident. And I'm just so saddened that she wasn't able to be here because she did so much thoughtful and careful work in preparation for this event, and for her not to be here, she's sadly missed, but fortunately the show must go on, and I thank those who picked up the mantle and arranged for this meeting. Now, as I prepared my remarks, my target audience was the population of students who were part of the COSEP program and similar programs. So that's to whom I'm addressing this talk. Now students, I do not expect you to swallow whole all that I say. Process it, digest it, and use what is useful. And what you think isn't useful today, well, you may think differently about it years later. You know the saying, what your mother tells you today, you'll learn tomorrow. In my brief 15 minutes, I will impart to you messages gained from over 30 years of being a part of prestigious academic institutions. Messages that I believe to be essential to all students of academic communities. I shall begin with an old adage, a familiar one. It takes a village or community to raise a child. And in this case, Cornell is the community village, and the students are the children. Now you must remember, you were not kidnapped and placed in the institution. Students signed an agreement to basically abide by the rules and regulations. Now you are entering the sacred grounds of long-time established, cherished, and well-endowed institutions. Universities will impose their own values and worldviews and convince you to believe them. And this is central to how you are raised. They're raising you to their values, their beliefs. However, as students or children, you are able to discern whether or not the manner in which you are being raised is compatible with the goals and values to which you aspire. The question must be asked, what are the goals and values of this community? How are we being sculpted, and for what purpose and whose benefits? You need to ask yourself, what benefits can I derive from this institution that will directly serve my values and goals? And responding to this question is where your critical consciousness comes into play. And hopefully, with the assistance of personnel in programs like COSEP, you will be able to navigate the system in a way that you will obtain your goals as you gain important skills from the institution without devaluing, diluting, or deserting your goals. I liken the students, the so-called minority students, because worldwide you're not a minority, 2/3 of the world is non-white. I think of a statement by W.E.B. Du Bois, whom I consider and many others to be one of the world's greatest philosophers. His phrase, double consciousness, is what I find and believe to be very apt to the students on academic institutions. The words are extremely profound. They were written decades ago, but they still speak to the racial and social constructs of today. And here's his definition of double consciousness. It is a peculiar sensation, this double consciousness, this sense of always looking at oneself through the eyes of others, measuring one's goals by the tape of a world that looks on in amused contempt and pity. One forever feels his two-ness, an American, a Negro, and here I would substitute for Negro minorities, LGBT students, rather than Negro, because it's all inclusive. Two souls, two thoughts, two unrecognized strivings, two warring ideals in one dark body, whose dogged strength alone keeps it from being torn asunder. Now I shall elaborate on words from the last sentence, dogged strength, because that is what you possess. That strength has enabled you to achieve your goals despite any environment. Given the present economic state of blacks in America, the growing attempt to diminish voting rights and the surge, the outright recognition of police killing young black males and young women, children, other minorities, I can reason that whatever a student's discipline, in some kind of shape or form, I am sure your goals include some form of social justice, some form of political involvement to intervene in bringing about much needed changes. And all of you, every student has power, power that can be used constructively. I'm reminded of a poem by the late Audre Lorde, simply called Power. It is particularly relevant today. It is a poem about a 10-year-old black youngster named Clifford Glover, who was shot down in Queens, New York, by a 37-year-old white policeman with 13 years of police enforcement. At large was a criminal that they were looking for who was described as a large black man in his late 30s. And this is what the policeman said. The policeman in his defense said, "I didn't notice the size or nothing else, only the color." He was set free by a jury of 11 white men and one black woman who said, they convinced me. Now, reading from the poem, this is what the Lord said. One black woman who said, they convinced me, meaning they had dragged her 4 feet 10-inch black woman frame over the hot coals of 4 centuries of white male approval until she let go of the first real power she ever had. And students, don't let that happen to you. Use your power. At that time, the jury had to be in 100% agreement for conviction, and that one woman could have saved it, but she let go of the power that she had. As I said, each one of you has power. You can gain much from the university: analytical skills, grammar, writing skills, critical thinking, knowledge in many fields. Apply these gains in the pursuit of your future profession. As you navigate the system, if you find the institution lacking in providing you with materials, courses that are not in your best interest, not sufficiently meeting your core value needs. Give deep thought and consideration to how best these problems can be solved. But don't stop there. Take action. The best theories and plans and ideas are relatively useless if they are not followed up by action. Let me deviate a bit in what I call a teachable moment. As I was having breakfast and being attended to by two lovely students, I was met by two of my former colleagues from Syracuse University, Professor Chandra Mohanty and Professor Carty. Now, just in a simple discussion, one of the students asked a question about Beyonce and feminism. And if you could have heard the theoretical analysis and the worldview given by these two professors who just happened to be there, it was astonishing, it was amazing. As I said to those young students, this is an example of using your power. Insist that the university or the department that you are in bring these two women or other women their caliber to teach from a black feminist perspective, a world perspective. That's what I mean by action. If you find you're lacking in something, use your power to get what you need and deserve. And let me conclude by saying that administrators, counselors, and deans, it is your responsibility and obligation to assist these students. And I speak now with people like Dr. Turner and Carson Carr, who assist and help these students to acquire the tools and equipment necessary for them to reach their values and goals as they navigate these academic institutions. And I was asked, as I listened to Professor Alexander ask about the most important moment at Cornell. My most memorable moment was walking out of Willard Street with the students and the takeover. I was the only faculty member in there with them. And I'll never forget walking out of that building and the young men, Jackson and Dawson and Phil, they said to me, "Now, Gloria, we know you're a dean, but you're still a woman, so you get on the inside." I forego my feminist thought and said, listen to these young men, you can learn from them. And let me tell you, I was glad I was on the inside of those women. There were these two lines of our black students with their guns and protecting us from a mass of irate parents and people. And believe you me, and they were little SDSs at their side, you know, with their little fist raised protecting us too. Believe you me, if those guns weren't there and one move, we would have been squandered, really devastated in that group. So that was my most memorable moment, walking out of that building with those students to out of Willard Street to meet with the persons. So thanks for having me here, and I'm glad to be here. And I did not detail the COSEP program. You can find that now from written material, and did not talk about my experiences as a director. There are many, and they're fraught with ups and downs and traumas and drama, but that we can get in a question and answer period. So at this point, I hate being timed with speeches because I like to go on and on, but I will abide to the rules, and thank you.
So we thank Dr. Joseph for those inspiring words. Just to illustrate her commitment, last night at dinner, the subject came up of the first female president of Cornell, and her first comment to me was, "Is she a feminist?" We'll find out. And Dr. Joseph will be here to speak with students after our event, and so we're really pleased to have that.
Let me just say, I hope I don't have to fight security, but these flowers were going back with me to St. Charles.
And now I'd like to welcome to the stage Jim Lazo from Alumni Affairs and Development.
Thank you and good morning. It's such a great honor and pleasure to be here with all of you, and especially you, Dr. Joseph. Your truly inspirational words will be among my greatest memories of my now 25 years here at Cornell. I bet many of you will return home with this in your heart as well. So thank you for sharing.
You're very welcome.
As the university celebrates its 150th birthday, we are particularly honored in Alumni Affairs to be able to celebrate this 50th anniversary and the amazing impact on many, many generations now of Cornellians that the COSET program and its successor organizations have had. I was really quite touched to see how many of you stood up and how many of you I've known over the years but didn't know that COSEP was a part of your life. And I was talking with some people earlier who said, well, they actually didn't enter Cornell through the COSEP program, but the COSEP program became important to them immediately. And how it had stayed with them all of these years. And so we are indeed fortunate for your leadership and Dale Corson and the many others who believed in what seemed impossible at the time that became possible and continues today in many important ways. The Office of Academic Diversity Initiatives and the Center for Intercultural Dialogue are vibrant programs on this campus, well-known programs, and they continue to support the students in such important ways in their intellectual development, their social programs, and now alumni involvement. It is quite amazing to see the number of alumni who are back this weekend, and many of you for the first time. This June, we will be hosting during reunion, a joint reunion between the Cornell Black Alumni Association, the Cornell Latino Alumni Association, and I encourage you to come back again, come home to Cornell to celebrate what Cornell has become and to learn about what it will be in the future. And so on behalf of SIVA and SILA, I'd like to invite all of you back. Now, I'd also like to invite you to the tailgate that Diversity Alumni Programs and Cornell Mosaic is hosting this afternoon until 3 o'clock. Now, I'm told that there will be traditional stadium food. This may be a reason not to attend. But there will be a historical timeline. There will be a chance for more conversation with friends, old and new. And I want to thank you again for being here, and thank you, Dr. Joseph, for the opportunity to share this stage with you. Thank you so much.
So thank you all for coming, and I invite students to come forward for a conversation with Dr. Joseph. Current.